Welcome back to the Motivated Savages podcast, where we live bold, lead fearless, and ignite our path forward. I'm Jody Savage, and today we're going to do something most of us rarely give ourselves permission to do. Pause. The last few weeks have been powerful. We've been walking through the heartbeat of transformation, the rhythm that starts small, builds quietly, and eventually becomes the soundtrack of who you're becoming. We've talked about momentum, those tiny, consistent steps that create waves. We've talked about belief, rewriting the old scripts we've carried far too long. And we've talked about identity, designing our future selves and living like we already belong there. And here's the thing, growth doesn't end with action. The real magic begins when you stop and let it land. This episode is about that landing, that sacred moment when all your effort, the habits, the mindset shifts, the early mornings, the hard choices, when they finally start to hum underneath your skin. When life whispers, "You're here. You did it. Now breathe." And lately, I've been living that whisper in ways that still take me by surprise. Just a few weeks ago, I watched a dream that had lived quietly inside me for years come to life. Shadows on the Road, which is my first novel, moved from a private file on my laptop to something I could actually hold in my hands. First as an ebook and then as a paperback. That moment, seeing my name on a real book cover, was surreal. But it wasn't just about becoming an author. It was about proving to myself that belief works. That the years of showing up when it was hard, the nights I doubted whether I had a story worth telling, every single moment was part of the unfolding. Then, before the moment could even fully sink in, I was on a plane to Montana. I joined 3 incredible women to form the first all-female Land Rover Trek team since the competition began in 1998. The mornings were cold and the terrain was brutal, and the challenges tested everything. Endurance, trust, focus, teamwork. And yet, somehow in that wild, rugged landscape, something clicked. I realized I wasn't chasing strength anymore. I was living it. 2 completely different moments, one quiet and creative, the other fierce and physical. But both carried the same message. The work works. When you align with who you're meant to be, life starts meeting you halfway. So today, this episode isn't about adding more. It's about slowing down to honor the transformation that's already here. Because landing isn't the end of growth. It's the part that makes it real. I used to think progress meant constant movement. That if I wasn't pushing myself forward, I was somehow falling behind. But now I know the pause is not the opposite of growth, it's part of it. When my book went live, I expected adrenaline. I thought I'd feel that surge of accomplishment that movies make you believe success feels like. But instead, I felt still, quiet, centered. It was like my spirit finally exhaled after holding its breath for years. That's what happens when effort catches up with intention. There's a peace that follows the push, a calm that says, "You did the work, let it sink in." And that same peace found me again in Montana. Standing in the field at sunrise with the cold clinging to the grass and my boots so heavy, I felt the same awareness. I'm built for this. Not because it was easy, it wasn't, but because everything that came before had prepared me to trust my own strength. That's what integration feels like. It's not loud or dramatic, it's steady. It's the quiet confidence that replaces self-doubt once you realize you no longer need to prove anything. So take a second right now. Think about something in your life that used to feel hard. Something that once triggered stress or fear, and now feels easier, calmer, more natural. That shift didn't happen by accident. That's growth landing. We often think we need to keep running, but what we really need is to stand still long enough to recognize that the ground beneath us is finally solid. That's what gives growth its strength. Not speed, but stability. I've learned that alignment doesn't arrive with the big signs or applause. It shows up as small, almost invisible markers along the path. Little reminders that you're moving in the right direction, even when you're not sure where it's leading. Lately, those markers have been showing up everywhere for me. In my office, where my microphone and my HR handbooks now share the same desk. Proof that my worlds no longer compete. They coexist. It's in my son's quiet confidence, when his focus mirrors the discipline I've tried to live out loud. It's in conversations with coaching clients when they finally stop apologizing for wanting more. And in the mountains of Montana, standing shoulder to shoulder with women rewriting over a 25-year-old narrative. It was proof that presence changes history. These moments aren't glamorous, but they're sacred. They're the signposts of a life in alignment, a rhythm where action and purpose move together instead of against each other. And maybe you've started noticing your own markers too. That conversation you handled differently. The calm you felt walking into a stressful meeting. The morning you woke up and realized you weren't dreading the day ahead. Those are your markers. They're evidence that something inside you has shifted, that you're starting to move from reaction to intention. When you start paying attention to those subtle moments, life becomes richer. You stop measuring progress by milestones and start feeling it in the way you move, speak, and lead. Alignment doesn't require perfection. It just requires presence. And presence is built one trail marker at a time. Now, if these last few months have taught me anything, it's this. Proof doesn't always come with celebration. Sometimes it comes in silence. The book launch, the trek, the long work days back home. Each one has taught me that transformation becomes tangible in hindsight. There were years where I felt like nothing was happening. Years where I was planting seeds that didn't seem to grow. But now, looking back, I can see the roots that were forming under the surface. The nights I stayed up editing chapters. The mornings I walked into hard conversations at work. The moments I kept leading, even when no one was watching. Those were the foundation. And now, that proof is all around me. It's in the people I coach who find their voice. It's in my kids watching their parents lead by example. It's in the calm I carry into challenges that once would have rattled me. That's the thing about proof. It doesn't need to announce itself. It reveals itself through evidence that you feel before you can fully articulate it. Now take a moment right now and think about your own version of that. What's working in your life that used to feel impossible? Where have you built consistency where there used to be chaos? Where are you showing up as someone your past self would be proud of? That's your proof. It's already under your feet. You just have to pause long enough to feel it. There's something sacred about reflection. When you take a moment to look back, you realize how much your life has already unfolded exactly the way it needed to, even the messy parts. When I stood in Montana surrounded by the frost and the grit, or when I held that first printed copy of Shadows on the Road, I realized these moments weren't the reward. They were reflections, mirrors of everything that had already been growing inside me. I saw the girl who learned resilience on soccer fields, the young mother who built stability through hustle and sleepless nights, the HR leader who held teams together when the world fell apart, the creator who kept showing up even when she didn't know who was listening. Every version of me had been doing her part to build this one. And the same is true for you. Every challenge, every stumble, every small win has been preparing you for this version of yourself. The one that knows how to breathe through uncertainty and keep walking anyway. So take a deep breath right now. Inhale gratitude for everything that got you here. Exhale the pressure to have it all figured out. That's grace, not weakness, not surrender. Grace. The understanding that your strength isn't in the constant doing, but in your ability to pause, reflect, and keep going with intention. When you choose grace over guilt, reflection becomes fuel. It reminds you that you're not starting over. You're building forward. And now, here's your Savage challenge for this week. And it's one worth repeating anytime life feels like a blur. For the next 7 days, give yourself 5 minutes a day to reflect. Not on what's missing, but on what's showing up. Ask yourself, where has belief become visible in my life? Write it down, because written reflection turns awareness into evidence. Maybe you'll write, I've become someone who doesn't need permission to begin. I've become someone who trusts their voice. I've become someone who rests without guilt. I've become someone who no longer apologizes for wanting more. At the end of the week, read your answers out loud. Say them slowly. Let the sound of your own progress fill the space around you. That's what it means to let growth land, to see yourself clearly, and to recognize the strength you've already built. And if one of those reflections feels powerful, share it, post it, tell someone you love. When you speak your truth out loud, you not only claim it, you amplify it for others who are still finding theirs. I'm Jody Savage, and this is the Motivated Savages podcast. Live bold, ignite your path. That's the Savage way. If this episode resonated, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's on this same journey. Someone who needs to be reminded that pausing isn't falling behind. It's how growth becomes grounded. And if you want to carry this message with you, check out our merch line at motivatedsavages.com. We've designed gear to remind you to live bold every day. Together, we're building the Savage community, a movement of people choosing purpose, growth, and bold living.